Us today for another webinar in our Market Access and International Approvals webinar series. My name is Crystal and I am part of the Certification and Approvals technical staff here at Vista Compliance Laboratories. Today I'll be presenting to you the Certification and Approvals regulations as well as the technical requirements for electrical equipment, electronics, and wireless product and device approval in China. Vista Laboratories is an EMC RF compliance test laboratory and product certification body and experts in global regulatory approvals for RF devices. So today we will be going over China market access for electronics and electrical products, specifically SRRC radio type approvals. In this webinar, we will be providing an overview of the major topics necessary to understand the process and get your devices on the right track for authorization and distribution in China. If you have any questions on the topic presented today or any other immediate questions regarding compliance testing and product certification, you can reach us at info@vista-compliance.com. Let's begin the presentation. To sell products in China, manufacturers both in China and globally must obtain CCC certification, which promotes the quality and safety of products for Chinese consumers. A diverse range of products must meet GB standards, which are similar to international IEC standards, as well as implementation rules in order to qualify for CCC certification. The State Administration for Market Regulation, SAMR, the Certification and Accreditation Administration, CNCA, and local accredited certification bodies such as the China Quality Certification Center, CQC, and the China Certification Center for Automotive Products, CCAP, are responsible for ensuring compliance. Here's a list of things that fall under their purview. Electrical wires and cables, circuit switches, electrical devices for protection or connection, low voltage electrical apparatus, low power motors, electric tools, household electrical appliances, audio and video apparatus, information technology equipment, lighting apparatus, medical devices, safety protection products, safety parts and accessories for vehicles. Factory inspection and yearly follow-ups are required. SRRC is mandatory for all products with wireless functionality, for example, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth Light, etc. For example, mobile phones, tablets, laptops, access points, RFID, satellite equipment under NAL, regulated products consisting of telecommunication equipment such as terminal equipment, radio equipment, network communication equipment. General guidelines is that the equipment used in public telecom networks fall under the NAL scope, and you will need to obtain the network access license for your product. We will be talking about the overview, testing process, and requirements of 3C in the next few slides. CCC, also often called 3C certificate, applies to both imported and Chinese-made products. Products requiring CCC certification must obtain CCC approval prior to being imported, bought, sold, and used or traded in China. Improper use of CC license or printing a CCC mark on products without certification will also result in fines and penalties. It is a product conformity assessment system implemented by the Chinese government to protect consumers' personal safety and national security, strengthen product quality management, and implement laws and regulations. The CCC certification shall be viewed as a legal requirement on the product's safety. Regarding the latest update, CCC has changed the product requirement. There are 9 types of products that no longer require certification, such as audio and video recording, playback and processing equipment, data terminals, and intrusion detectors. However, 2 new types of products are now subject to compulsory certification, including lithium-ion batteries and battery packs, mobile power supplies, and power adapters chargers for telecom terminal products. The certification procedures are being modified to enhance efficiency and accuracy by establishing the timing and frequency of factory inspection based on certain factors, including national supervision and random inspection of product quality. These adjustments aim to strengthen product safety and quality control. Testing laboratory must be designated CCC test lab. Local test lab in China, in-country testing is required. CB report can be used. Test time, 3 to 4 weeks. This is product dependent on how complex it is. Samples, 2 or more. Documents, user manual and specs, simplified Mandarin Chinese. Circuit design, schematics, block diagram, and PCB layout. Declaration for family model differences, factory QA, critical components list, EMC and safety, internal and external photos, product assembly drawing, factory inspection report, factory inspection within 3 to 6 months, annual inspection is required, validity, 5 years. Now let's take a look at SRRC. SRRC is mandatory for any products with wireless functionality, for example, Bluetooth, wireless LAN, and Bluetooth Lite. For example, mobile phones, tablets, laptops, access points, RFID, satellite equipment, and many more. Here's a simplified background of SRRC. In 1999, the Ministry of Information Industry, MII, mandates that all radio components products sold and used in China must have a radio type approval certification. In 2008, the Ministry of Information Industry, MII, renamed itself to Ministry of Information Industry Technology, MIIT. In 2010, SRRC is implemented as a division of MIIT for the purposes of wireless equipment regulation and spectrum management. Presently, SRRC and MIIT release public notices regarding regulatory updates. The regulatory updates are technical requirements in the radio approval schemes and is based on the high-level radio law, regulations of the People's Republic of China on the management of radio operations. Radio law introduces the necessity of radio resources management and provides the basis of defining radio technical requirements, the use of radio frequency within the territory of the People's Republic of China, the establishment and the use of radio stations, the development, production, import, sale, and maintenance of radio transmitting equipment, and the use of non-radio equipment that radiates radio waves shall comply with these regulations. The SRRC is the certification body responsible for the mandatory SRRC certificate. Unlike China Compulsory Certification, CCC, there is no product category for SRRC. Therefore, all types of products, whether industrial or residential, must be SRRC approved if they have radio transmitter function. In addition, under SRRC type approval, each model needs to be certified individually, but module approval allows for certification of modules in a series together. In certain cases, module approval may eliminate the need for SRRC testing and certification for certain categories of end products. In the following sections, we will discuss the requirements for SRRC certification related to module approval. The State Radio Regulatory Commission, SRRC, is responsible for granting certificates to equipment and appliances that have radio transmitting function. The Commission was established on June 1st, 1999, and its certification is required for both industrial and residential products, with no differentiation made between the two.
Submission is made to MIIT. The type examination is the pre-application review based on submitted document to determine if the radio meets regulation and technical requirement. The application will be accepted if it's found to be compliant based on documentation. Otherwise, it will be declined if any non-compliance is found. A notice will be issued to explain the reason of declaration. For example, family grouping is not allowed. Each model needs its own SRC radio type approval. The testing must be done in designated testing facility. Applicant can choose which facility to use for testing from an approved list, and the lab is assigned by MIT. We recommended doing pre-testing before submitting to SRC, as technical requirements are different than FCC and CE. If the product fails the testing, SRC will not issue an approval and the process needs to be completely restarted. Good communication with the testing facility and addressing troubleshooting issue is important to obtain SRC approval. Once testing and report are completed, application package is submitted for review. Approval process may take up to 4 weeks for SRC to issue radio type approval certificate. Approval is valid for 5 years, but many different validity terms depending on the product. Some products such as the mobile phone requires both SRC and NAL approvals. This process directly follows the radio law, where it states the radio law regulatory agency will examine whether the radio transmitting equipment approval for the model is in compliance, and approve or not within 30 working days from the date of accepting the application. If it is approved, the type approval certificate for the radio launching equipment shall be issued. If it is not approved, the applicant shall be notified in writing and the reason shall be explained. The National Radio Regulatory Agency shall regularly announce the approval of the type radio transmission equipment to the public. There is a database online available to view all SRC applicants approved. Your information will be published. Required documents. The application form. The sample application form is on the right. Information on production capacity, technical strength, and quality management system related to the production of radio transmission equipment. If the quality system certificate has not been obtained, a detailed materials of the technical capability, production capacity, and quality assurance system should be submitted. This is because in the radio law it states, not only the device need to meet the technical requirement, but the applicant also must have adequate production capacity, quality system in order to be qualified for obtaining the approval. CCC, CQC, or other voluntary certificate will help to simplify the process, if there is. CQC, also known as China Quality Certification Center, is designated by the Certification and Accreditation Administration of China to handle the CCC certification. User menu shall describe how to display the approved radio equipment ID. E-labeling is allowed, but a description of how it will be displayed must be provided. If the model approval code is displayed in electronic form, it shall provide a description showing the model approval code and the electronic signage style, and complying with the notice of Ministry of Industry and Information Technology on the electronic display of the radio transmission equipment model approval code. Testing samples usually need to be in conducted configuration, such as antenna removed and RF cable attached for measurement. The test software and setup instructions are required for the testing. The lead time usually will within 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the lab availability and product. You may have seen that the actual technical requirements are defined by MIT and is released to public in the format of official notice. The requirement will be enforced upon publishing or on the date defined in the notice. These notices are accessible from MII website. For example, at the left-hand side is the MII notice number 2005-243 for micro-power short-range device, which was first released in 1998 and was updated in 2005. In the regulated equipment types, a list of some of the types. Micro-power short-range device, 2.4 GHz cordless phone, 800/900 MHz RFID, 2.4 GHz band, 5150/5350 MHz band, 5.8 GHz band, UBW, ultra-wideband radio, 24 GHz short-range vehicle radar, 60 GHz band micro-power short-range. Moving on with the short-range device example, here is the translated table of operating frequency range and the requirements for measurement frequency range. The 10th harmonic if operating frequency range is within 100 MHz to 600 MHz. And not to compare to FCC limit because it is not comparable, nothing similar. The table is just to define measuring frequency range, and it's all in Chinese version. It has 10th harmonic, 2nd harmonic, and fixed 26, while FCC is 5th harmonic for non-radio and 10th harmonic for radio. It's important to classify and identify which notice apply to your device because requirements are different than FCC and CE. Just because you have FCC and CE does not guarantee you can obtain SRC. As you can see, the requirements aren't too complicated for short-range device, but devices such as 2G, 3G, and 4G, it becomes more complicated. Though SRC is completely different than FCC, some SRC requirements refer to the CE standard, especially for 2G, 3G, 4G products, but they are no means identical. Now let's go back to take a look at the SRC technical requirement. Most of the SRC technical requirements are very simple. Depends on the radio type. It defines the following major requirements on radio parameter: frequency range, transmitter output power, occupied bandwidth, and frequency tolerance. Testing lead time. The testing time is different upon the equipment type. We can take a look at the first one, mobile communication base station. It takes up to 8 days for the test time, and compared to 2.4 GHz, 5.1 GHz, 5.8 GHz band wireless LAN equipment, with no DFS device, it takes up to 7 days, and with DFS, there's only 1 day difference, or including the master device DFS, it's going to take up to 10 days. Radio type approval certificate. After testing is complete and documents report is sent to review and passes review, the approval process may take up to 4 weeks before SRC can issue the radio type approval certificate. Approval is valid for 5 years, but may have different validity term depending on the product type. Some products such as mobile phone requires both SRC and NAL approvals. Approval is contingent on submit evidence of sale and or proof of use, sales records. SRC cert is only allowed to be renewed once. If your original cert is valid for 5 years, you can renew another 3 years with total validation of 8 years. After 8 years, you will need to recertify your product as new. Renew application must be submitted at least 30 days before expiration. Actually, the hard requirement in the radio law states, the term of the radio frequency license should not exceed 10 years. If the applied standards are changed over last years, or the product has been changed, or the renewed application was not submitted at least 30 days before expiration, testing is then required, and the new certification with a different SRC ID but can be the same model name will be issued. Next, we're going to talk about the SRC modular approval. Modular approval is allowed under the SRC radio approval scheme, and there are 2 different modular, full modular and limited modular. There are 4 mandatory full modular approval. The module should have its own data buffer and modulation unit. The module should use an integral antenna. The module should have clear indication of input voltage. The module's transmitting unit should have RF shielding. After that, there is an additional mandatory Rule 5. The module should meet all other SRC rules and regulations. This condition is mandatory for both full modular approval and limited modular approval. Host using fully modular approved module. The host system does not require a new SRC certificate. The host should bear a label containing the statement, "This device contains SRC approved radio module CMIT ID number." with the actual codes from the SRC certificate. The radio module certificate holder is the responsible party to ensure the combined system continues complying with SRC. Any qualified host system that contains a 2G, 3G, or 4G radio is not allowed to incorporate a SRC certificate module. The whole system is subjected to a new non-modular SRC approval for host system with a 2G, 3G, or 4G radio. Limited radio modular approval must meet at least 3 conditions above. The module should have its own data buffer and modulation unit. The module should use an integral antenna. The module should have clear indication of input voltage. The module's transmitting unit should have RF shielding. For hosts using limited approved module, the host system requires a new SRC certificate. New SRC means a new CMIIT ID will be issued to the host system and only needed to perform radiated-related testing. The host system's new SRC certificate will contain the limited modular approval module CMIIT ID information. Host system will use the new ID and not the modules. Allowed to have multiple modules under the same host system certificate. The host system should be affixed with the new MIT ID, not the limited modular approval CMIT ID. Following the SRC labeling requirements, it is allowed to list multiple modules number on a single host system certificate. Normally, is not allowed. Only for modular approval it is allowed to do this. Other than the SRC approval, the radio equipment for sale in China must also be registered by the radio dealer before being released into market. The registration can only be completed on radio equipment that has obtained SRC approval. So SRC approval is the prerequisite. The registration does not need to be done by manufacturer. Normally it's done by their local dealer or distributor. If the equipment using the radio transmitting module require type approval, then the equipment shall have a sales filing before entering the market, and the type approval information of the entire equipment is submitted. But the type approval information of the radio transmitting module need not be provided. The radio transmission equipment sales record is subject to localized management. Different stores of the same company must be responsible for their own sales record filing. Penalties and legal liabilities. Unauthorized use or sale of equipment will result in confiscation of the illegal equipment and income. Fines of up to 10,000 yuan will be imposed. If corrective action in response to this are not made, fines ranging from 50,000 to 200,000 yuan shall be imposed. Setting up and using radio stations for fraudulent activities will result in fines ranging from 200,000 yuan to 500,000 yuan. If a radio transmission equipment that has been approved by SRC but has not been registered for sale, the SRC shall order it to make corrections. If no corrections are made, fines from 10,000 to 30,000 yuan shall be imposed. A few other articles from 78 to 90 describe the penalty under the other different situation, including selling radio equipment that is being modified and deviated from its original SRC approved condition, and selling radio equipment that violates the laws and regulations on product quality management. SRC label. The SRC label primarily consists of the word mark that represents the CMIIT ID issued to the manufacturer by the agency as part of the approval process. It is crucial to note that any product imported into China and distributed there must have a CMIIT ID. Next, we will cover a brief introduction on the NAL, which is Network Access License for Network Conformity. Under NAL, regulated products consisting telecommunication equipment such as terminal equipment, radio equipment, network communication equipment. General guidance is that the equipment used in public telecom networks falls under the NAL scope, and you will need to obtain the network access license for your product. Here is a brief overview of NAL. NAL regulates the telecommunication equipment. It is MIT's division, TAB, Telecom Administrative Bureau, is in charge of NAL program. The general guideline for NAL is that the equipment used in public telecom networks falls under NAL scope. For NAL, family grouping is not allowed. Each model needs its own NAL. Some products such as mobile phone requires both SRRC and NAL approvals. Once testing and report are completed, application package is submitted for review. The official submission lead time for NAL is usually around 60 working days. Once the NAL is granted, the applicant may apply to MIIT to buy the NAL sticker. The lead time for NAL sticker is usually within 3 to 4 weeks. Products that are not NAL approved and marked with the NAL label may not be imported into China and sold there. NAL does not require the upload of the sales contract. The renew application need to be submitted 90 days before the expiration. For NAL, there are some new changes were made in 2022, which is there are 11 types of products no longer subject to NAL, such as cordless telephone terminals, PBXS modems, and there are 2 additional types of products have become subject to NAL. It is satellite internet device and function virtualization applicants. Moreover, the NAL process is being reformed and improved, such as by the validity period of the access trail approved extended from 1 year to 2 years. This concludes our webinar on market access, certifications, and approvals for electrical equipment and wireless products in China. I hope this webinar was helpful for you in understanding the process for SRC, CCC, and NAL approval and certifications, as well as what requirements are applicable. Vista Compliance Lab specializes in certifications, approval, and compliance testing for electrical and radio frequency device, and it is the 17025 accredited EMCRF compliance test lab and 17065 accredited product certification body. We are a telecommunications certification body in the US, Canada, EU, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan, and we provide certification and approvals for all product types in countries all over the world. If you would like to stay in touch with regulatory updates, follow us online. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on the information presented today or any general inquiries, you can reach us anytime at info@vistas-compliance.com. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.